All right, South Carolina. This is the one we've been watching tonight. 99% in. The Associated Press is predicting that Darlene Graham will be the winner, projecting her to be the winner in this race. It's an interesting race. There was the first part of this was 2 weeks ago. Let me show you how that looked. If you look back to that primary, there were four main candidates in there. Darlene Graham is all this red here. Ralph Norman is the former member, or the member of Congress from northwestern South Carolina. He won almost everything in the area that he's from, except this one county in the far northwest corner of South Carolina. Everything on this northeastern side was won by Russell Fry. Russell Fry obviously didn't make it to the runoff. He endorsed Darlene Graham, and she ended up winning. Take a look at the race now. Counties like this, which Russell Fry won 2 weeks ago, Darlene Graham has now taken 73 to 26. If you go up here where Ralph Norman is from, look at that, 2-1 for Ralph Norman in York County. Over here in Spartanburg County, same thing, basically 2-1 for Ralph Norman. In Greenville County, same thing, 2-1 for Ralph Norman. But in the end, South Carolina will be represented on the Republican side by the incumbent Senator Darlene Graham in the upcoming elections. Now, South Carolina Republican voters have now gone to the polls 4 times so far this year, but the primary in that state is finally done, and now come the midterms in November. The election is underway now. No Democrat has won a statewide election in South Carolina in 20 years, but the death of Lindsey Graham has changed the dynamics of the race. Lindsey Graham was one of the state's most well-known politicians. He was a 4-term senator who was expected to win a 5th term relatively easily before his death, although he didn't win his primary by as much as you'd think a 3-term pro-Trump Republican senator would have. His sister Darlene Graham's chances of winning a full term in the Senate is less assured. She's largely an unknown entity. She's had a much lower profile than her top competitors on the special primary ballot. Voters don't really know her, and she hasn't been tested on the political front. Case in point, during a debate last week, Darlene Graham was caught flat-footed when she was asked a straightforward question about Taiwan.
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? And if so, why or how?
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security. But I do support the military.
Now, whatever you think about her answer there, it's worth noting that national security was one of Lindsey Graham's top issues. May not have agreed with him on it, but he was well read in on at least the top things going on in the world. Darlene doesn't seem to suffer from that. Her answer was met with some boos in the audience, as you heard. It was seen as an embarrassing gaffe. Donald Trump, however, sees her as a reliable ally to have in the Senate. He campaigned alongside Graham at a rally in Myrtle Beach last night. Listen very carefully to what his message was to the crowd.
The problem that we have is they say that Trump does great when he's on the ballot, but when he's not on the ballot, his people don't come and they don't vote. So what I really want you to do is pretend, please, that I'm on the ballot. Just come and vote. It's so important.
Pretend he's on the ballot. Imagine that. But that might not be the flex that he thinks it is. Trump's approval numbers remain underwater. Many of his top policies are deeply unpopular. His job ratings haven't shown any sign of improvement in months. In fact, they've degraded more. The more unpopular he gets, the better the Democrats' chances become. Now, again, don't get me wrong. The South Carolina Senate race remains an uphill battle for Democrats. Republicans have a robust political infrastructure and a massive financial advantage in South Carolina. But the factors that have developed over these past couple of months give Democrats a bigger opening than they anticipated in November's elections. In the fall, Darlene Graham will face the Democratic nominee, Annie Andrews. Unlike Graham, Andrews is not entering this year's Senate race as a complete unknown. Andrews is a pediatrician who first ran for Congress back in 2022, which she said was partly motivated by the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. She lost that year to Nancy Mace, who went on to run for governor this year and did not succeed. Andrews decided to give it another go. For more than a year, she's been preparing to take on a different Graham in November, but she's hoping that running on a platform focused on health care and affordability is going to help her in a fight against political corruption in Washington. And that's going to help her flip South Carolina Senate seat for the first time in decades. Joining me now is Dr. Annie Andrews. She's the Democratic nominee for the United States Senate in South Carolina. Annie, good to see you again. Thank you for being with us.
Good to see you, too. Thank you so much for having me, Ali.
You and I haven't talked for a while, but the last time we talked, you were sending vibes out about how you felt that you were competitive in this race. This is still while Lindsey Graham was the nominee. He didn't win his race by as much as you'd think. I think it was 56.5% for a guy who didn't go crosswise against Trump, in the last 10 years. There was some sign of weakness there before he passed.
Yeah, there absolutely was. I've been in this race for over a year, building a people-powered movement all across South Carolina, offering practical solutions to the problems South Carolinians are facing, like high gas prices, high grocery prices, and an impending healthcare crisis due to these Medicaid budget cuts. I've been talking to voters everywhere, not just Republicans and Democrats and independents, everyone I've been talking to. And we were building a team and a plan to defeat Lindsey Graham. We had polling that showed me just a couple points behind him, but we feel even more confident given the way this race has evolved at our chances in November. This is now an open seat with an unknown as the Republican nominee. I've been building this team for over a year. We have the momentum behind us, and we are so excited to offer something new to the voters of South Carolina.
So Donald Trump, in covering for the gaffe that Darlene Graham made last week, said, she's not that into foreign affairs, Lindsey Graham was. She's really into affordability. But when asked about this in this particular runoff, she said, wait till I get there and I'll sort it out. But she's been there. She's been a United States Senator for 6 weeks now or something.
Yeah, listen, Darlene and I are both political outsiders, but being new to politics is not an excuse to be unprepared. I'm a pediatrician who's worked in children's hospitals for 20 years, taking care of sick and injured children. If I don't know the answer to a question, I go and study, I find the answer, and then I show up prepared. There is no excuse for how unprepared Darlene was to step on that debate stage. And I think it just shows you the level of unseriousness from her campaign. And here in South Carolina, we're feeling the effects of this very disastrous Trump administration. We watched Trump run on lowering grocery prices and no new wars, and he's done the exact opposite of that. Every single event I've been to over the past several months, there have been Republicans there who tell me that they're Republicans, but they're tired of what their party has become. They're looking for something different, and that's what I'm offering. I'm a different kind of Democrat. I'm not a career politician. I don't want to be a career politician. I'm a public servant who understands that politics is the path to most efficiently and effectively solve the problems that my patients and their families have been facing. So given this national political environment where we've seen double-digit shifts to the left all throughout the Southeast since November 2024, given that this is an open Senate seat, that I'm running a different kind of campaign as a different kind of candidate at a moment when our healthcare system is really under an unprecedented, coordinated attack, I just can't think of a better time to elect our nation's first ever pediatrician senator.
Darlene Graham mentioned you a few times in her victory speech tonight. Listen to what she said.
We cannot and must not allow Democratic Socialists to gain a foothold in our conservative state like South Carolina. For those who are not aware, you need to know that my Democratic opponent, Dr. Annie Andrews, is the most radical liberal ever nominated for a statewide office by the South Carolina Democratic Party. Her views are those of Bernie Sanders and AOC.
Wow, the most radical liberal. I interview a lot of Democrats on my show, a lot of progressives, a lot of DSA people. I think you're a great person. I'm glad you're here. I wouldn't put you in the category of even being close to the most radical liberal I've had on my show.
No, I think you're right about that. I am not a socialist. Thank you for playing that clip. I hadn't heard that the audience booed me. I find it really, entertaining that they have nothing to attack me on. They're resorting to the same old National Republican Party talking points. I don't know what's so radical about thinking everyone in this state should have access to affordable health care, to be able to see a doctor when they need one. I don't know what's so radical about thinking that every county in South Carolina should have an OBGYN. I don't know what's so radical about thinking that families who are working hard should be able to put food on the table and also keep their lights on at the end of the month. If that's the best Darlene has, I think it's going to be a really exciting and fun 70 days ahead as we continue to work to build a coalition to flip South Carolina blue in November.
I want to talk to you about medicine. You and I could talk for a long time about this. It's in the rest of the developed world, it's not at all radical to think that everybody actually gets some form of health care coverage. Like conservatives believe that, liberals believe, everybody believes that in these places. But we have been talking today a lot about Dolly Parton and how she helped fund the Moderna vaccine. There's also news today that Pennsylvania recorded its first measles death in 35 years. You're a pediatrician. Measles is not a joke. And it was a hell of an achievement to get it down to zero. And now we're back.
Yes, it was. And this is a direct result of RFK Jr., who is nothing more than a grifter and a conspiracy theorist who's been peddling an anti-vaccine conspiracy theories for decades while simultaneously enriching himself. He has been spreading anti-vaccine disinformation for decades. And as a direct result of that, I have witnessed over my career a rise of vaccine hesitancy and vaccine refusal to the point that now we're seeing outbreaks of preventable infectious diseases. Here in South Carolina, in Spartanburg County, we had a measles outbreak with almost 1,000 documented cases of the measles.
Wow.
This is one of the reasons Democrats winning across the country in November is so urgent. If we take the House and we take the Senate, we can impeach and remove RFK Jr. And if we don't, he's going to have 2 more years of unfettered access to America's public health infrastructure. And that will be disastrous. So if people listening think it's a good time to send a pediatrician to the U.S. Senate, they can read more about my campaign. They can chip in to support me at drannieandrews.com.